So Kathy, we're here to honor your dad, and I'm so honored that you were able to be here. I'm so pleased when family can be with us for these kinds of things. But my question for you is, did you and your brother Rick grow up in the Herman area, or were you
No.
born away from here?
I was born in Bethesda, Maryland. My dad was in the Marines, and they were married in 1952, and on May 18th, and I was born exactly a year later. And we moved to Mississippi, Ocean Springs, and that's where my brother and I grew up. And then they left there and moved to Fulton, Missouri, and stayed there. And then Dad bought a plant in Owensville with Lee Christie. He bought the plant and ran that for a while and got tired of driving from Fulton to Owensville daily. So they didn't want to move in Owensville, and so they found Herman, and so that's how I came here. And then I ended up marrying a local boy from Rhineland, and
So growing up, what are some special memories or fond memories of your dad that you?
And I figured you'd ask me that. On weekends, I can remember going to Pascagoula, where my dad worked, and we used to go fishing on the weekends, like on a Saturday or Sunday. And then doing those kind of things, going on vacations, because we'd have a week or two off, and traveling out to Arizona where my grandparents lived, or coming here to Missouri where my dad's parents lived in Owensville, and or in St. Louis when they lived there for a while. And Dad always being there for us, for both of us, for my brother and myself. Yeah, we butted heads. I'm so much like my dad that we butt heads, and he'll agree. But yeah, those are the kind of things that I can remember, you know.
Well, when did you first get an inkling of his desire to give back to the community or to serve? Was it when you moved to the Herman area? Or?
Yes, because before then he was never involved in anything. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, once he came to Herman, I know that people who always ran for mayor, and that's where he got involved first, was running for mayor. If you weren't a local, nobody knew who you were. And so I think with him being involved in Lions and being involved in church, I think people got to realize who my dad was, and thought, okay, you know, he might be a good person for this position. So I think once he took his first term and then re-ran again 3 years later and got it. And then, like I said, then he's met millions of people, and Dad is one of these people that everybody likes. I don't think he has an enemy anywhere. And I think, and then people would ask him, would you be willing to help with getting the new bridge? Would you help us with keeping the courthouse here in Herman instead of moving it to Owensville? And, and with him having ties in Owensville and here, I think that kind of helps too, those kind of things.
I know that he spent a good deal of time planning Maifest celebrations, being on the committee.
Right. I remember some of them because I remember one year, and I don't remember what year it was, but Herman was flooding. And Gail Helling was involved in the advertising, and it was flooding in Herman, and they were all going, maybe we should cancel it, and all. And at the last minute, Dad said, no, we are having it. Gail, you get on the phone and you get a hold of all the newspapers and the TV people and say that Herman is open. He feels that it's an occasion for people to realize what Herman is really like. It's not, Herman's not just come and visit antique stores. I mean, this is basically what Herman, I think Maifest is. It gives back the German heritage and things like that. So.
Well, now I just would say that behind every good man is a good woman. And what about your mom? What was her supportive role in all of this? She had to have been there.
Yes, and she is, and she's a great person, and she's been behind Dad pushing Dad in things that maybe he may not want to do, and say, hey, John, you need to do this. Give it a try. And not that Dad wouldn't have done it anyway, but I think it's that extra push going, okay, I can do this, you know, and she was always there. You know, they'll be married 65 years, the 18th of this month, which is 2 days from now. So
that's one reason we're especially honored that he agreed to do this, because I think they were going to travel and they put that off.
They did. They won't be leaving until the following week now because of this.
So we're very, very honored.
And I think it's nice that this is the 65th anniversary or anniversary for Maifest, and it's their 65th wedding anniversary.
Tell us a little bit about your early days. Were you born in the Herman area?
I was born in Orangeville, and we moved to St. Louis area during World War II. My dad went to work in a defense plant in St. Louis, and I grew up in the Creve Coeur area in a little small farm, and graduated grade school from a one-room schoolhouse in Creve Coeur, if you can believe that or not. And then went to high school in Clayton. We were bused in, you know, all the rural kids. We took a bus, and a school bus, and went into. And I graduated from Clayton High in '47. So I went to Rolla, School of Mines then, and graduated in '51 with a degree in ceramic engineering.
Okay, that's very interesting. So some people would still call you a transplant, even though that you've been in Herman for how many years have you?
Well, we moved here in the middle '70s, about 77, 1977.
Okay. Now, were you in the military?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you serve?
In Washington, D.C. I was in the Marine Corps in 1952 to 4 during the Korean conflict, and I was stationed at 8th and I, which is the ceremonial Marine Corps post for Washington, D.C. They provide honor guards for the White House and all the other activities that occur in the Washington area.
So in the course of all this, you and Nancy have been married 60s?
We'll be 65 years this year in May.
Okay.
Maifest.
Okay.
It's always Maifest.
Yeah. Okay. And then, when did the children come along? You have 2 children?
One in Washington, D.C., and one was born in California.
Oh, okay.
And we have 2 children, right? 2 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren.
I know they're proud of their papa, that's for sure. I've heard that from both of them.
Oh, you have? Well, that's great.
Yes, I
It's
have.
gratifying to know.
Well, you know. Anyway, now tell us, I know that you were a mayor in Herman.
Right.
And so that was shortly after you retired? Or were you still working?
No, I was still
Were
working,
you?
because actually after I sold my business, I established a consulting business. And I traveled kind of worldwide, working with primarily glass art people on the furnace design, melting of glass, chemistry of glass.
Okay. So what prompted you to become mayor? That takes a heartfelt effort. I think.
I guess I don't know, I maybe have to go back and start I joined the Lions Club in 1977, shortly after we came. And Lee Colderman, I don't know, he was very active in the community. He urged me to get involved. Well, the Lions Club was involved with the Maifest. And so I was the Lions Club representative on the Maifest Council. At that time, they had a very active Maifest Council. All the organizations in town had a representative on the council. And so gradually I became president of the Maifest Council during some very active years. when we had huge crowds, and it was a major festival. And then during that interim, I was involved with the chamber also, a member on the chamber, and I got involved with Betty Held on Maifest, and ultimately I became chairman of the Maifest and worked on developing it pretty much in the format it is today. How I got involved with the becoming mayor, there was a lot of friction in the community at that time concerning tourism. There was an establishment within the city that was real anti-tourist. And so I kind of ran on a platform of tourism, not openly, but that's what I advocated, because there were members within the city government that really didn't want tourism to take on any great prominence in the community. And in establishing the need, I decided, Bob Kirchhoffer was mayor before me, and he decided not to run again. And so I said, well, I'll run, but I was going to run on a kind of a platform of, being a little, community should become proactive from a tourist standpoint. Well, I won very, very narrow vote. And I also ran because I was Maifest chairman, I was Wurstfest chairman, very active in in tourism. And I said, I'll run providing you can get other people to take over these responsibilities. That's how I got out. So I actually ran as mayor in order to get out of all these other jobs I had. That's it. Essentially how I became mayor,
Well,
by 3 votes.
in other words, you're a peacemaker.
I'd love to be called that.
Yeah. Well, I think that sounds like you made a huge effort in that regard, and that's so important. During your tenure as mayor, you were mayor for 6 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You felt that the tourism and the Maifest and so forth was all part of growth in Herman, do you think?
Oh yes, very much so, and the other elements of like the Showboat Theater came on, and it played a very prominent role. The German school took on a whole new environment, got a lot more active from a tourist standpoint. So I try to work diligently with all the elements of the community in order to promote Herman. And we formed a strong relationship with the German-American Club in St. Louis, and I would go to their meetings down there as mayor, and they always had me give a little speech about what's going on in Herman, and they'd come up and visit. And then we had representatives from the German ambassador would come and visit the community. Everybody fell in love with Herman,
With regard to Maifest, do you have some favorite memories of that? I'm sure as head of Maifest there were plenty of challenges for you, but do you have favorite memories of it?
Well, great crowds. Always, you stayed active. And working Maifest was about an 8-month job. You started about 8 months, and same thing with Wurstfest. The trouble with a lot of people who take chairmanship, they think, well, you can get this all done in about a month. You have to make a lot of external contacts, to try to get entertainment in, try to get, like in the Wurstfest, to get exhibitors in. I worked at, you gotta imagine how you can expand this, and you gotta add something new every year. Like the Wurstfest, I had photographs taken of like old outhouses and had them framed, old smokehouses, and then how sausage was made. And I don't know if any, a lot of these exhibits aren't in existence anymore. And getting volunteers to help is a big thing. I remember it seemed like always my anniversary would fall about the same day Maifest, and that Saturday night, this Saturday night, we always had a big party at our house. We lived up on Stone Hill Highway, then next to the winery. And you know, we had a lot of fun. Everybody enjoyed it, so I never had any problems getting people to work for me. You know, and having Mem Schmidt around, you know, that's how I got involved. I mean, as soon as I got the Showboat Theater, she said, "Well, you're going to be president, you know, of the board." So, you know.
Well, another thing that I often ask people, that especially that have been involved as much as you have with regard to Herman, and that is, do you have a vision for the future and what you think would be an ideal thing to keep Herman as...
Well, you got to keep doing what you're doing, and unfortunately, everybody's trying to copy what Herman's been doing successfully, and that's how part of it is why we lost the Maifest. And you know, it was a traditional festival in our community. And Wurstfest is, this last Wurstfest has lost a lot of its character, so it's easy to lose these great festivals that Herman's noted for. And unless the people in the community become more committed to supporting them. And that's where I see where we're failing because of our lack of commitment to some of the traditionals that have been very important to the Herman history. When I was mayor, we had 3 major floods, the '93 flood, and then we lost Handy Pack, the toy company, and the building collapsed during that, and so we had and the whole community pulled together to figure out how can we keep these people working. Well, we found some buildings on the outskirts of town, and they were able to salvage some of their equipment, and they kept running and making some of the products. Moved the office staff up above the city hall. That's when the city hall was on Schiller Street. And but the whole community got together and really kept them back and kept them in business. So, and then we were able to build that nice building, unfortunately, that First Bank occupies now. Mm-hmm. And we were able to get them set up into that building, but.
That's a good sign of a community that pulls together during those times, and I think it's a sign of good leadership as well.
Well, just everybody works together, and that everybody asks. And the question most people ask me, well, how traumatic was it? I said I didn't have any problems as mayor. I really enjoyed it. People worked together, had a great group of aldermen, and had a great city administrator. And it made my job easy. Mm-hmm. I was just a representative of the community. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't have to worry about the day-to-day details.
Yes, I believe you carried a card that said you were Burgermeister.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought
I
heard.
Yeah, well, that was Bob Kirchhoffer started that.
Okay.
And you go to meetings and you hand those out, and they were kind of souvenirs. People would come and ask, could I have one?
Yeah.